And we are live. Welcome to the Free Culture Sports Show. This week we got a little bit of a different week. I'm here. Doug continues to be away. Sorry, guys, a little bit under the weather this week. Doug continues to be away. No guest this week. It's just going to be me, myself, and I. Going to talk to you a little bit about some college basketball. I believe that's all we're going to have time to today. But boy, is it going crazy in the NFL free agency lately. The Eagles, I've never been an Eagles fan, but the moves that they are making make me want to cheer for their success. I hate the Cowboys, so that makes it much easier to cheer for the Eagles. But man, I really hope it pays off for Chip Kelly. When teams do crazy moves like that, it's a lot easier to cheer for them and hope for success than teams that don't make any good moves like the Cleveland Browns. And it's a lot harder to cheer for the Cleveland Browns. So here, free agency, I hope that they succeed. That being said, let's move right into some basketball. It's March. March Madness has already begun. Today is Pi Day. I'm a math teacher, so today is March 14th. It's begun. We're 2 weeks into March. As of right now, there's 12 teams that have punched their tickets to the big dance. There'll be more than 10 today. I had 13, but I think I may have lost count, maybe a little bit more than that. But by the end of the day, we'll have over 20 teams in the field. It's starting to get exciting, guys. It's starting to be real. Today includes the ACC and the Big 12, and we'll talk about that in a minute. First, let's go through the automatic bids, the teams that are already in. We got the Belmont Bruins from the Ohio Valley Conference. That's the same conference as Murray State. They beat Murray State in the finals. It was such a heartbreaking loss. This will be their seventh Belmont appearance. This will be the seventh Belmont appearance, their first since 2013. So they took a year off, and now they're back. Coastal Carolina from the Big South Conference, 24-9, beat Winthrop by 11 in their conference final. They were in the tournament last year, so they should know what they're getting themselves into. Gonzaga from the West Coast, 32-2, could be a number 1 seed, potentially probably a number 2 seed. They beat BYU by 16 in their tournament final. They're led by Kyle Wiltshire, who's former Kentucky Wildcat, scoring 16.6 points per game. This will be their 18th tournament appearance, and I believe they're pretty much all in a row. I think they haven't missed in like 18 straight seasons, so credit to them for that. The Lafayette Leopards from the Patriot League, 20-12, beat American by 2 in their conference final. Their first tournament appearance since 2000, so good job, Lafayette. The Manhattan Jaspers from the Metro Atlantic Conference, they beat Iona by 10. I thought Iona had this league this year, but Manhattan, they took it to them in the conference final. They're only 19-13. They were in the tournament last year. It's their 8th appearance. Let's see if they can knock off a team or two this year. Northeastern Huskies from the Colonial Conference, they're 23-11, beat the Good William and Mary team by 11 in the conference final. This is Northeastern's 8th tournament appearance, but their first since 1991. The last time they were in the tournament, I wasn't even born yet. That's how long it's been for the Northeastern Huskies. So good for them. Next, we've got the Northern Iowa Panthers from the Missouri Valley Conference. They are 30-3. They beat Illinois State by 9 in the finals, and man, that was a good game. I thought Illinois State was going to win that one for sure, which would have shrank the bubble a little bit, but Northern Iowa pulled it out. This is their 7th tournament appearance, their first since 2010, which I believe is Kansas, when Kansas was the overall number 1 seed. And as my roommate in college liked to call it, they got Verukmaneshed, if you remember. Guy who hit the 3-pointer that was just the dagger against Kansas in that 2010 game. Again, I apologize, guys. Playing soccer out in the rain is never a good idea. Coaching soccer out in the rain is not a great idea either. Tend to get a little bit sick when you do that. Next, from the Summit League, is the North Dakota State Bison. They beat the South Dakota State University by 1 point in their conference tournament. That's their first appearance since last year, their 3rd overall. So congratulations, North Dakota State. Next, we have a newcomer to the tournament, the North Florida, and I can't pronounce this word, Ospreys. I don't, what is that? What is an Osprey or an Osprey? No idea. Need to do a little bit of research on that North Florida mascot. They're from the Atlantic Sun Conference, and their record was 23-11, their first tournament appearance. So, it could be like a Florida Gulf Coast. They could make a big run their first time in. We just got to wait and see. Next is Robert Morris from the Northeastern Conference. It's 19-14. It's their 8th straight appearance, their first since 2010. Next, we have Valparaiso Crusaders from the Horizon League, 28-5. They were the clear favorites all year. Their 9th total appearance, their first since 2013. Everybody remembers Valpo for that crazy shot at the end of the game with that play that's always shown in March Madness. I don't think they've ever been able to repeat since then, but maybe they can win a game or two. And then finally, the Wofford Terriers from the Southern League. It's Southern Conference, 28-6. They beat Furman by 3. They were in the tournament last year. It's only their 4th appearance, but man, living so close to Wofford, I hear a lot of good things about this team. Now, they've beaten some okay teams, nobody great, but I think they'll be able to hang around. Look out for Wofford once the tournament starts rolling around. Whew, man. So that's all of our automatic bids right now. We've got some more coming today, including the ACC and the Big 12. Even though all of those teams are already in the field, it's always nice to see who gets that automatic bid. Last week, if you joined us, it was me and my father, Dr. Whitfield from Gardner-Webb University. I live right down the road from it. We may have put a curse on them and some few other teams. Sorry, guys. Gardner-Webb lost to Coastal at the Big South semis. It was a close game, but Coastal had the lead pretty much the whole game. It ended up being a 3-point loss, and it's at Coastal every single year. And I keep thinking, is that fair to every other team to put it at Coastal Carolina every single year? It just seems like Coastal then has a huge advantage every single year. So I don't know if that's something the Big South is looking into, but I mean, it's by the beach, Coastal Carolina. Maybe they're just trying to get some people drawn to the beach for vacation. Be nice if Gardner-Webb hosted it. I mean, so we could have the home court advantage, but who really wants to come to Bowling Springs or Shelby when he could go to the beach? Again, I hope that changes, but it seems so unfair to me that you put a conference tournament at one school every single year. I'm just against that totally. Finally, the curse we put on Murray State. They had such a huge winning streak, over 25 games, and lost to Belmont in the finals by 1. I mean, Belmont is just a team over the past few years who just always finds a way to win their conference tournament. Last year, I think they were a 12th seed, and I maybe have had them in the Sweet 16. I mean, they're good. I don't know. I don't know enough about them to say who they lost from last year's team, but they've been good years in and years out. I'm just keeping our fingers crossed that Murray State team finds a way onto the bubble. Lots of commentators and analysts have said that they deserve it just because of the winning streak and the record that they have, but with a strength of schedule below 200, below 250 even, I believe, it's just going to be hard to make a strong case for a team with that low of a strength of schedule. Yeah, they can rack up wins, but if you're beating lower teams, then it's hard to say that's deserving to be one of the 34, 36, how many ever teams get at-large bids. Credit to Murray State. Love them. They won all of those games. It's really hard to win that many games straight. It doesn't matter who your competition is, but to win that many games straight is such a feat. It's disappointing that a team that can win like that doesn't get an automatic bid to the big dance, but that is the nature of the conference tournaments. That's why March Madness begins as soon as the conference tournaments begin, because crazy stuff like that, teams that deserve to go in lose, then they don't have a strong enough case. So I'm curious in the future if Murray State will push for tougher scheduling, maybe try to schedule Kentucky because it's an in-state team. Maybe try to schedule somebody else that's close, a potential SEC team or ACC team, just to kind of bump up that strength of schedule to say, hey, look, even though we still lost to these guys, our strength of schedule is now like 100 instead of 200. I don't know. It, they'll be going to the NIT if they don't make the big dance, but still got those fingers crossed. The committee has done some crazy things before, so they can certainly put Murray State in the field if they want to. Meanwhile, still in the state of Kentucky, University of Kentucky has continued their winning ways. They're still undefeated. Honestly, I really don't think there's a team that can beat this Kentucky team as long as they've stayed healthy. They've proved it every single game that, they can come back from behind. They can blow you out of the gym. They can keep you from scoring for stretches. They can just unload on you at times if they're shooting well. I just don't think there's a team that can beat them. Virginia and Duke, which both just lost, lowers my belief that they can beat Kentucky. You still got maybe Wisconsin, maybe Arizona, maybe Gonzaga even. Somebody could beat them. But if they stay healthy, it's just going to take a hot shooting team to beat this Kentucky team. And the way that they play defense, their height, their ability to rebound, protect the rim, it's going to be tough. Last night, to me, showed me that Duke cannot beat this Kentucky team the way that Duke lost to Notre Dame. Notre Dame just basically said, hey, look, we're going to put a guy one-on-one with Okafor, and the rest of you are going to beat us. Okafor got all of his, but the rest of the team didn't do very well. And Duke lost. And Kentucky can easily put somebody one-on-one with Okafor and guard everybody else. So there's no way that I can see this Duke team beating Kentucky. Virginia is a much worse matchup defensively. Wisconsin is a worse matchup defensively, but Wisconsin runs through one player, so it's really hard to say that Kentucky couldn't find a way to shut that down. So if it's going to be anybody, I would put it on Virginia or potentially Arizona. The movie Any Given Sunday tells me that anybody really could beat this Kentucky team if Kentucky's having a bad day, but you just don't think that's going to happen. I just don't think that's going to happen. See, we've got North Carolina was the best team that gave it to Kentucky, and because they were able to shoot 40-50% against Kentucky, and that was a great game, but Kentucky just outscored them. So there's really just no way to really attack this Kentucky team. They'll hold you to less than 30% shooting. They'll play lockdown defense, get the rebounds, limit your chances at the rim, and then they'll just beat you up down low or find the shooter outside. It's just, if somebody wants to offer and say, look, this team could beat Kentucky, please show me who that team is. I'm all ears. But off of Kentucky, let's go back to the ACC now. Speaking of Virginia and Duke losses, who are the number one seeds? Kentucky is a lock. Virginia and Duke, they've deserved it all season. Are these losses right here at the end of the conference tournament going to be enough to sway the committee to say, look, you're not a number one team? Right now it's Kentucky, Virginia, Duke, and maybe Villanova is the fourth number one. But with Virginia and Duke losing in the semifinals of the ACC, they're probably going to drop just because Arizona's probably going to win the Pac-12. Wisconsin might win the Big Ten. Villanova should win their conference. I still believe that Virginia and Duke deserve it in the long run, but I could see Arizona sneaking in if they beat Oregon tonight. Villanova should win their conference. They should be a number one seed. If Wisconsin has to play Maryland in the finals and they beat Maryland, I could see them giving it to Wisconsin. You really, for Virginia and Duke to be a number one seed, you really wanted to see them win out the ACC, and especially if they had to play each other to see who really deserved the number one seed. But with Virginia's loss to North Carolina and Duke's loss to Notre Dame, they could both slide out. I don't see that happening, but I could easily see the committee making a case for it. So, what's left? Let's go to a bubble watch basically to see. We've got some big finals coming up. We need to see if the bubble's going to shrink. First, we have the ACC final. It's UNC and Notre Dame. Both teams are solidly in the field. Of course, I graduated from Chapel Hill. Doug graduated from Chapel Hill. We want UNC to win. If UNC is able to beat Notre Dame, I think they have a strong case for a number 3 seed. If not, they should be a number 4 seed, but just beating Virginia and then hopefully beating Notre Dame, I think they can slide up to a number 3 seed. I know at times they haven't looked great, but they've been in tough games with big teams, and they just haven't been able to win them often enough until they beat Virginia last night. So they'll get Notre Dame tonight, and if they can win that game, I think they deserve a 3 team. North Carolina can beat anybody. They almost beat Kentucky this year if they could have played a little bit better defense. They've almost beaten Duke at Cameron, and they should have had them both games, but such is the nature of the UNC Duke rivalry of late. They beat a lot of quality teams. But they've beaten Louisville twice. So I think they deserve the 3 seed. If Notre Dame wins, they deserve a 3 seed for sure. Maybe even a number 2 if some other teams lose here in the last few days. But I could easily see if Notre Dame loses, UNC taking the 3, Notre Dame taking the 4, them both being 3s. But we'll see. Once you get in a tournament, the seeding doesn't really matter. As long as you keep winning. But, of course, I want UNC to be as high as possible. In the SEC, we've got Kentucky versus Auburn and Georgia versus Arkansas in the semifinals today. All of the teams are in except for Auburn, who draws Kentucky. So if Auburn manages to beat Kentucky, manages to beat Georgia or Arkansas tomorrow, they will be in the field. They will knock a bubble team out. I don't see that happening. There should be no way they beat Kentucky today. March Madness, though, they could do it. Doubt it, but they could. So look for Kentucky to win. Georgia and Arkansas, probably Arkansas will win. They're the better team, but both teams are in, so it really doesn't matter. Big 12 final, we've got Kansas versus Iowa State. Both teams are solidly in the field. The winner could get a number 2 seed, which would be pretty big. Kansas has been kind of borderline number 2 seed, but they've had more losses than they kind of usually do this season, especially that huge loss to Kentucky at the beginning of the year. I don't think anybody can shake that out of their heads, just how bad they were against Kentucky that game. But both teams are solidly in, so Bubble Watch will say, who cares who wins that game. The Big Ten semis, we've got Wisconsin versus Purdue and Michigan State versus Maryland. The 4 teams are in. 3 of them are solidly in, but Purdue is kind of on that line. Joe Lunardi right now has them as like the last 4 buys, which is like the last 4 in before the last 4 in. So they need to win against Wisconsin today to probably solidify their position. They're probably in without beating Wisconsin, but if they do, that'll definitely tell some other teams that they're not going to make the dance because of Purdue. Oregon versus Arizona in the Pac-12 final. Both teams are in, so not a whole lot to watch there. If Arizona wins, they might sneak up to that number 1 seed. If they lose, they're probably still just going to stay in number 2. And then the last one we're going to talk about today is the Atlantic 10, where you have VCU and Davidson. Both are in, and Rhode Island versus Dayton. Now, the reason I wanted to talk about this is because you always want to talk about North Carolina teams, see how many they can get in the big dance. But VCU and Davidson should both be in the field. Rhode Island and Dayton, I believe Dayton's in, and I don't know enough about this Rhode Island team. Their record is pretty good, but I don't know if they've beaten anybody. But their record's about the same as Dayton. I think they finished about the same spot in the Atlantic 10 with close to the same record, maybe half a game or 2 off. But if Rhode Island wins the A10, that could shrink the bubble too. We could get 4 teams in from the Atlantic 10 conference this year. which would shrink the bubble for teams like Miami and Indiana and everybody else, just and Murray State, everybody else waiting to see if they get in. But it comes down to tomorrow. It's Selection Sunday tomorrow, one of the most exciting days on the sports calendar, especially one of the most exciting sports events where nobody's actually playing. You just get an idea of who's going to be playing, and then starts all of the bracket pools. I think there's predictions of like 70 million brackets going to be filled out just on ESPN. I mean, maybe not just on ESPN, maybe that's worldwide, but 70 million brackets. It doesn't matter if that's just on ESPN. That doesn't matter if it's worldwide. It doesn't matter what. 70 million brackets are going to be filled out and submitted. And, we're still waiting for somebody to predict that perfect bracket. The odds are just completely against it. I think it'll happen eventually. Somebody someday will make one bracket that is perfect. We've seen a few people be off by 1 game, 2 games, maybe 3 games in the first round and have the rest of it completely. It's just with college sports, you can't predict who is going to win every single game. And it's just, isn't it really exciting time, March Madness? Now, I hope that they start to change the name a little bit because we're going into April with the Final Four. So it's more like March/April Madness, which is what we're doing here at the Free Culture Sports Show. We're having lots of shows this month and next. But this has been the Free Culture Sports Show on Pi Day, March 14th. Thank you for joining us and have a nice day. Bye.